Strait of Hormuz is like Toys R Us. Nobody has any idea if it's still open or not.
So Jimmy Kimmel just exposed the chaos of Trump's Iran policy and the $175 billion tariff disaster that's crushing American businesses. We're seeing foreign policy by Twitter meltdown, broken websites, and inflation promises that aged like milk. This breakdown reveals everything wrong with governance by grievance.
The ceasefire was scheduled to end tomorrow night. Last night, the president said it was highly unlikely he would extend the truce. He said if a deal wasn't reached, Iran was going to be bombed like Kash Patel at the Poodle Room in Vegas.
Trump's Iran threats follow a clear pattern: harsh deadlines followed by last-minute extensions. He did this with North Korea, China trade deals, and government shutdowns. Each flip-flop erodes American credibility and signals to adversaries that his red lines are actually suggestions.
Said he was going to end the war in Ukraine in one day. He said he's going to release his tax returns, the new health care plan, the wall, Greenland. This is a man whose word is as good as the gold commode he sits on. And
the pattern is undeniable. Infrastructure Week never happened. The health care plan was always 2 weeks away, and Mexico never paid for the wall. Each broken promise compounds the next, making it impossible for allies or enemies to take American commitments seriously in negotiations.
Then, of course, about 3 hours ago, he went ahead and extended the ceasefire.
This immediate reversal, after declaring bombing highly unlikely, perfectly illustrates why Trump's foreign policy was so dangerous. When your word changes every few hours, you can't build the stable coalitions needed to actually resolve international crises through diplomacy.
Based on the fact that the government of Iran is seriously fractured, not unexpectedly so, and upon the request of Field Marshal Asim Munir and Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif of Pakistan, we have been asked to hold our attack on the country of Iran until such time as their leaders and representatives can come up with a unified proposal.
Bringing Pakistan into Iran negotiations shows Trump had no understanding of regional power dynamics. Pakistan and Iran have complex sectarian and geopolitical tensions. It's like asking North Korea to mediate between Japan and South Korea. It reveals fundamental ignorance of Middle Eastern politics.
Trump is doing right now, it's like if you hired a plumber to install a new toilet, and the plumber tells you it'll only take an hour to put it in. And then there you are 8 weeks later, and you still have a hole in the ground.
The plumber analogy perfectly captures Trump's governing style. Promise quick fixes to complex problems, then blame everyone else when reality hits. Foreign policy isn't home repair. You can't just tweet your way out of decades-old regional conflicts and expect instant results.
Everything's perfect, ahead of schedule. In fact, he actually finished the job back in March. But as soon as he can get his vice plumber over there to flush it, your bowel movements will go down better than ever before. Definitely better than Joe Biden, okay?
Trump's compulsion to claim fake victories while his VP contradicts him publicly shows why his administration was perpetually chaotic. When Vance has to clean up Trump's Twitter disasters in real time, it signals to world leaders that America doesn't have coherent leadership.
CNN reported that they were close to a deal before the weekend to end all this, but Trump derailed it with his crazy posts. Anonymous White House officials told CNN the negotiations have been harmed by the fact that Trump is live tweeting them like a ninth-grade girl watching Euphoria.
Diplomatic negotiations require confidentiality to succeed. When Trump live tweeted every development, it gave Iran leverage to play his emotional reactions against American interests. Professional diplomats spend years learning to keep poker faces. Trump broadcast his hand constantly.
He told ABC News J.D. Vance wouldn't be part of the negotiations over there. At the same time as people were saying J.D. Vance would be part of the negotiations, he's obviously either not in the loop or just ignoring the loop.
When the president and vice president contradict each other on active negotiations, it tells foreign leaders they can shop around for the answer they want. Iran's negotiators could play Trump against Vance, knowing the administration couldn't maintain a unified position for 24 hours.
Not only is he bragging about the 10 wars he has allegedly ended, he is now giving himself credit for ending wars from more than 50 years ago.
Trump received 5 draft deferments during Vietnam, including 4 for college and 1 for bone spurs. Now he's claiming credit for wars that ended before he was born. It's military stolen valor taken to an absurd extreme, claiming victories he actively avoided participating in.
The man who actually dodged the draft to stay out of Vietnam who got a note from a podiatrist that rented office space from his dad to claim he had bone spurs, even though he was on the football, baseball, basketball, and soccer teams at the military academy his parents sent him to. Had a young Donald Trump not sustained that incredibly well-timed boo-boo on his foot, not only would he have fought in the war in Vietnam, he would have risen straight to the top and won it very quickly for the United States.
The podiatrist who wrote Trump's bone spur diagnosis rented office space from Trump's father. Meanwhile, Trump was playing multiple varsity sports at military school. The deferment wasn't medical necessity, it was purchased privilege while working-class kids got drafted instead.
I mentioned last night, Trump has fallen out with many of his most loyal maggots, including Tucker Carlson, who went so far as to apologize for ever supporting him in the first place.
Tucker Carlson was Trump's most loyal media defender for years, pushing election fraud claims and defending January 6th. When even Tucker publicly apologizes for supporting you, it signals that Trump's core media ecosystem is finally acknowledging they enabled a destructive fraud.
Marge Taylor Greene, Alex Jones, Megyn Kelly, Candace Owens, and now Tucker, and that was his brother, Buckley.
Marjorie Taylor Greene was Trump's biggest House ally. Alex Jones promoted his conspiracies for years, Megyn Kelly defended him through multiple scandals, and Candace Owens built her brand on Trump loyalty. Losing this core group means his propaganda machine is fragmenting from within.
So in February, the Supreme Court ruled that Trump's tariffs were illegal and had to be paid back, which means our government, which means we now owe up to $175 billion in refunds.
The Supreme Court ruled unanimously that Trump's tariffs violated trade law because he imposed them without proper congressional authorization. At $175 billion in refunds, that's roughly $1,300 per American household that taxpayers now owe because of his illegal economic policies.
And to no one's surprise, the tariff refund portal, the website, doesn't work. One business owner said, I can't even get to the point where I'd receive an error message because the portal is down. The website is so bad, it can't even load the page that tells you it can't load the page.
This website failure follows the exact same pattern as healthcare.gov's launch disaster, but worse. Businesses have been waiting months for legally mandated refunds, while the administration's incompetent contractors can't even build a functional portal. It's government by amateur hour.
Inflation is up, according to the Consumer Price Index, which is interesting because I seem to remember him telling us it will be down.
Consumer Price Index data shows inflation hit 3.2% last month, well above Trump's campaign promises. His tariffs act as a regressive tax that disproportionately hurts working families. Every economist predicted this outcome, but Trump ignored expertise in favor of populist economics theater.
Now, I assume this was not a true story, but we did some digging, and we managed to find the woman with the 3 apples.
Trump's fake anecdotes follow a pattern. They always feature unnamed people, impossible details, and perfect dialogue that sounds like Trump wrote it. The Apple story joins, "Sir, you're the greatest president ever," and crying Secret Service agents in Trump's fictional universe.
Now, I'm wondering, before when Joe Biden was president, you had to put an Apple back because you couldn't afford it.
That's true. My Social Security didn't go very far with Biden's inflation.
Okay, but inflation is still very high today. How do you afford all those apples?
The Apple story contradicts itself immediately. If people couldn't afford apples under Biden due to inflation, how can they afford more apples under Trump when inflation is actually higher? The internal logic collapses because Trump crafts narratives without checking basic facts.
This is incredibly depressing, but thank you for talking to us, Mary.
This segment perfectly exposes how Trump's economic promises were always fiction. Real families are struggling with higher costs, while Trump spins fairy tales about Apple abundance. The gap between his propaganda and economic reality grows wider every month of his presidency.